Hi there, I'm Matt, the pastor here at United Church Online and in Bath and Gunnisonville, Michigan. What is your heritage? What stories make up who you are? How does your culture and your ethnicity shape the stories that you tell? And where does God's story fit into who you are? We're exploring these questions in one chapter of the Bible for 3 weeks, and along the way, we're adding some texture with this book, His Testimonies, My Heritage, Women of Color on the Word of God. Psalm 119 reveals a lot about God's story and your heritage. And along the way, I want to help you get connected. We all need positive connections with other people right now, so much. And it's easy to do that here. You can make some comments on social media. You can interact with others that way. And the easiest way is to click on the Connect card. I'd appreciate it if you'd do that today. Just click on the button that says Contact Us. That will help you get connected, and you can get any information you request, and it'll let me send you a message just to welcome you to our church. Right now, I'd encourage you to grab a candle from around your house. In a moment, we're going to light it and pray together. And before we enjoy a song from John to think about our topic and light that candle, I want to just say thank you to those of you who call this your church home, whether you're online or whether you typically go to in-person church, and for supporting this church with your prayers, your finances, your volunteer time. Together, we're really making a difference in this community and helping feed hungry children in our area every weekend with weekend survival kits. And now we're turning our attention to the Afghan refugees that are coming into our neighborhoods. Well, let's pray together. We'll light this candle together. You can grab your candle and light it with me, and remember as we do this that God is the light of the world, that His love shines, that He's with us right now. So let's pray together. God, we take these first few moments to focus ourselves right here in the moments that we have, not only with each other, but right with you. We recognize your presence here. We put all of the stresses of the day, the to-do lists we have, all the activities we have later, we just gather them up and set them aside and purposefully put our attention on this very moment. We're thankful just for a few minutes to be together and to be, not to do something, but to be, and to be seen by you and known by you and listen to you. God, we have concerns that we bring with us today. So as much as we can, we identify the burdens that we're carrying, and we spend a moment bringing them to you and bringing to you the people that are on our hearts that we know could use a touch from you. We bring those things to you by naming them to you right now. God, thank you for hearing our requests. We leave those things with you now. Hear our praises. We thank you for the gift of life that you've given us today. We open ourselves to you, God. Speak to us through the gift of your presence, through the gift of your wisdom, of Scripture. Speak to us through your Spirit. Amen.
Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. When I feel afraid, think I've lost my way, still you're there right beside me, and nothing will I fear as long as you are near. Please be near me to the end. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I will not forget your love for me, and yet my heart forever is wandering. Jesus, be my guide and hold me to your side, and I will love you to the end. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path.
Good morning. I want to remind you that this month we're helping Afghan refugees as our mission project. I'd like to share some photos the Michigan United Methodist Conference posted on their website. Even though you may have seen them before, they're certainly worth seeing again. Afghan refugees are already arriving in Michigan, and in the Lansing area, St. Vincent Catholic Charities is the lead organization. They estimate it will cost about $2,000 to support a family of 4 for just 1 month, so you can see it's critical that we help. And while financial gifts are certainly much appreciated, there's another way you can help. St. Vincent is accepting donations of household items, and these can be dropped off at 2800 West Willow Street in Lansing. Jesus said, "For I was a stranger and you welcomed me." This is what he's called us to do. Welcome people coming to our community because they had nowhere else to go. So during this month of Thanksgiving, the Bath and Gunnisonville churches will be accepting donations to support refugees from Afghanistan. At the end of the month, 100% of the money will go directly to this effort. You can find several ways to give on the church webpage. Simply go to unitedch.com/give and look for instructions below Mission of the Month. If you're interested in learning more about this issue, there are links on our webpage to the Michigan Conference of the United Methodist Church, as well as to St. Vincent Catholic Charities. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care.
I'm Tom Cooley from the Bath Church. It's my honor to lead you in the Lord's Prayer.
Hi, I'm Sue Swain Gillers, and it's my joy to lead you in the Lord's Prayer today. Will you please pray with me? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Hi, I'm Hope, and I'm pleased to read scripture today to you, and we are reading from Psalm 119, verses 28 to 32. My sad life's dilapidated, a falling down barn. Build me up again by your word. Barricade the road that goes nowhere. Grace me with your clear revelation. I choose the true road to somewhere. I post your road signs at every curve and corner. I grasp and cling to whatever you tell me. God, don't let me down. I'll run the course you lay out for me if you will just show me how.
Hi, I'm Dan Thalen, and I'm happy to read from Scripture. Today we're reading from the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verses 65 to 72. Be good to your servant, God. Be as good as your word. Train me in good common sense. I'm thoroughly committed to living your way. Before I learned to answer you, I wandered all over the place, but now I'm in step with your word. You are good and the source of good. Train me in your goodness. The godless spread lies about me, but I focus my attention on what you are saying. They're bland as a bucket of lard, while I dance to the tune of your revelation. My troubles turned out for all the best. They forced me to learn from your textbook. Truth from your mouth means more to me than striking it rich in a gold mine.
His law is his steadfast love written down. The psalmist knew this. Do we?
We do, sometimes. Sometime soon, we will know it forever.
Generations will be born wondering if God's faithfulness will cease, if it will become like us, a people who age and eventually end, if it will endure beyond them,
If their children will know his name and call him king, and if, when they find themselves in love with a monarch of another kind,
if God will still save, God will save.
Hi there, kids. I'm Casey. Remember me? I'm your kids club friend. It's been a while since I've seen you. Do you know where I am? A lot of my brothers and sisters are around your house, and I think I might be lost. Oh my. Maybe you can find me after church. And will you tell me, what do you miss when you can't come to church? What do you miss there? I look forward to seeing you sometime again. There's so many fun things to do at church. I'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Casey. We put a lot of energy into staying connected with our kids, and honestly, it's just been a hard road for parents and especially for our kids. We miss seeing you all in person. Last year, we had Casey and Kids Club online church. We sent packets to kids a couple of times, including, if you were connected at that time, a Casey puppet. But I can't wait for us to reconnect. We're brainstorming on ways to help parents reconnect with their kids, with church, aunts, uncles, grandparents, all of that. So send us your ideas, parents. The easiest way to do that is, of course, to put them on the Connect card. So when we have Kids Club up front at church, there's often some pretty wild and spontaneous things that happen with kids. And I find most of the adults all tuning into the children's lesson and then thinking, man, that's such a good reminder. We really value the whole family's participation in worship, and everyone benefits when generations interact, including the children. Each week, when I do the children's message, or if you see me talking to children around our church, you'll often see me sitting down or kneeling down to speak to them. I'm a bit vertically enhanced, and I realize that can be intimidating to, especially to kids. Of course, I've done that with my own children too. I remember, especially when it's an important thing to talk about, to get down on their level, right eye to eye. I remember one of my daughters had separation anxiety when she headed off to kindergarten. Man, I can still feel the emotion of her fear of going to school. And I remember kneeling down and looking right into her eyes and assuring her, you know, your sister will be at school with you. You're going to be okay. You're going to be with your teacher for a while, and it's going to actually be fun. You can be brave. You can do this. I remember assuring her that you're going to be okay, and in a couple of hours, I'm going to be right there to pick you up, and you and I'll come home together. There's a special tone in our voices when we're talking a parent to a child, isn't there? And at our best, parents and all of us as adults can remind our children of unconditional love. Through our attention to children at church, we use that same tone with our kids and in Kids Club, all of us, so that those kids will know that God loves them and God notices them. And of course, we have some fun along the way. Through our children's messages, we all get a reminder of God's love for us, like a parent talking to a child. Some of us haven't had that experience during childhood of a good family around us, but we can see what it might look like through our worship services. In our series on Psalm 119, we're tapping into this book, His Testimonies, My Heritage. And I want to thank you, Tiffany, for getting us started on this series. I'm so grateful for Tiffany being a part of this series. And we're going to hear from her a little bit again today as we explore more around this psalm. What we find in this psalm is a reminder that God's testimonies speak to us as we are, where we are, just like a parent talks to a child. That's such a powerful metaphor for how God speaks to us. Have you had an experience like that, where an adult was speaking to a child in a really meaningful way? Well, to explore that a little bit, here's a question for you. Tell a story of when you spoke to your children, or when your parents spoke to you on a child's eye-to-eye level. This idea of a parent speaking to a child is a central metaphor in the Bible, and it's a helpful one for exploring God's testimonies. Remember, God's testimonies speak to us where we are like a parent to a child. Psalm 119 uses a bunch of synonyms for God's testimonies. The Bible calls them commands, the Torah, which are the first 5 books of the Bible, the law of the Lord, decrees, ways, precepts, statutes, ordinances, and the word. There are even more words used than that, and God's testimonies are those things and more. They're all the ways that God speaks to us. Christina Edmondson is one of the authors of his testimonies, My Heritage, and Christina says this: I am amazed that God speaks to us even when it's clear that we will not fully understand. That's so true, isn't it? When I read this statement, at least 2 things pop out to me. First of all, God speaks to us. I'm amazed that God speaks to us even when it's clear that we are not going to fully understand. Even though God doesn't have to do that, God's all powerful. He could get rid of us in an instant, even though we are the creation and the God of the universe is so far above us. Yet God speaks to us, each and every one of us. Whether we realize it or not, God guides us through what we see, what we hear, what we read, and even through the relationships that we have with our family, our friends, coworkers, acquaintances, and even our children. Second, God speaks to us even when we don't understand. God doesn't get tired of us, doesn't lose patience. He keeps speaking until we grow into an understanding of who God is according to the stories of the Bible. Now, a reminder of what we learned last week, that God's stories and God's testimonies, they are your heritage and my heritage and our heritage together. God's stories can be found in the Bible, and they are all of our stories together. Christina Edmondson continues and says this: God calls us by name, and he shares with us glimmers of his will. He holds up a mirror so that we can repent of and resist sin. Have you ever heard that song Michael Jackson sang called Man in the Mirror? The song's about looking at the man in the mirror and starting there to make change. Change starts with us. And through that song, Michael Jackson is preaching to us. And so I think is Christina. God loves us. And in that love, God meets us where we're at. But that love of God always draws us to a more holy and loving ground. Our love is not yet perfect, nor is it broken beyond repair, but it's a work in progress. God's love shows us, like a parent to a child, the parts where we need to grow and to be transformed. When we look at our reflection, God doesn't show us the whole picture on purpose. None of us knows what that completed picture of our life will look like. God shows us the parts of the picture that he knows we need for that moment or season before us. Like a parent who lovingly meets their child where they're at, and at their level, God sees us and meets us in that seeing. I want you to hear Tiffany expand on that idea of being seen.
I'm an African-American woman, which means that the culture holds up a mirror where I am typically unseen and hyperseen at the same time. Let me explain. Here at Sycamore Creek, I've had a really different experience. Before I got here, for years, you guys have been doing a lot of hard work with congregations organizing for racial reconciliation, or CORE. And I understand that the work is not done yet, but it has definitely prepared a pathway for someone like myself to enter into a community such as Sycamore Creek and feel like I'm welcome. Noticed, but not hyperseen. So far, so good, right? I've not had that type of positive experience before working in a predominantly white institution.
Thank God that some of our churches have been looking in the mirror and working toward being a place where all people can be seen and welcomed. That's such an important mirror work. Psalm 119 has some fabulous verses, and as we said in the first week, we're not going to cover all 176 of them, but let me share a few of them with you today. Here's one of my favorites, and I hope it speaks to you as well. Verse 11 reads like this: I have stored up your word in my heart, that I might not sin against you. There's a curve in the road that sits right behind my house. You can see it at the end of our backyard, and it's really a kind of a cool spot. It's really pretty. I've got to admit, it would be a fun place to drive down kind of fast in my little Miata. It's a curvy road. It comes down a hill. There's trees on each side, and there's a pond of water. And a couple of years ago, I didn't see the black ice that was on the road, and I went around that corner kind of fast, and I could feel the car start to slide out of control. I turned the wheel, and absolutely no correction at all. I was headed straight for the side of the road, and you know what kept me in the road instead of in my neighbor's backyard? Yeah, a guardrail. Oh, I had some scratches on my car, but at least it didn't completely crash my car. That guardrail kind of guided me around the corner, and that's how this verse speaks to me. God's word is my guide and the bumper rails to my life. I need those guidelines, and I need to bump into them from time to time, but it helps me to store up God's word in my heart. It sets my heart on what matters and my life on a path that matters. Another verse I like is verse 125. I am your servant. Give me understanding that I may know your testimonies. I've been a pastor now here for 7 years, and in some ways it seems like a long time, and other ways it seems like it's just a flash. But as I continue to grow in my relationship with God and with leading people, I need that understanding that verse talks about in order to move us forward and in order to grow. There have been times, and there'll be more moments, when I won't understand. But through this verse, I'm encouraged to lean on God's understanding. Maybe you need to remember that one too. Finally, verse 169 reads this: consider how I love your precepts. Give me life according to your steadfast love. I want life to the full, and I expect that you do too. Psalm 119 reminds me that I won't find life to the full apart from God and apart from God's stories and God's commands. I've shared with you some meaningful verses. Do they resonate with you? I'm going to give you just a moment to chat and reflect on how the Bible speaks to you. Do any of these verses from Psalm 119 or others in the Bible speak to you? Remember that God's commands or testimonies speak to us where we're at, like a parent to a child. And when I use the word commands, well, God's commands aren't just the 10 commandments. They're much, much bigger than that. They're the guidance and direction we get from the Bible. The commands or testimonies of the Bible hold up a mirror to our lives. Our culture holds up a very different mirror. Tiffany shared with me that our culture tells her that she is a, quote, descendant of those abused by the transatlantic slave trade. She contrasts that with how God's word forcefully corrects the heretical claims about the inferiority of women and about people of African descent. God's word reminds us that whatever color our skin or our hair or our eyes, we're all created in God's image. Christina Edmondson also reminds us that through God's testimonies, we encounter the revealed truth of God's creation of one race and many diverse cultural groups for his glory. Let me unpack that statement a little bit, because often when we hear this idea of one race, we think that the best approach to race is to be colorblind. Well, I don't think that's true, because the idea of being colorblind neglects the historical realities and the real-time today instances of racism and its continued impact in many of our day-to-day lives. Well, God speaks to us through this psalm. Let's look at one more verse today to explore how God speaks to us like a parent to a child. Here are the verses. I will also speak of your testimonies before kings, and shall not be put to shame. For I find my delight in your commandments, which I love. I will lift up my hands toward your commandments, which I love, and I will meditate on your statutes. From this first passage, we learn that God's testimonies speak truth to power. See, God's word is for all of us. It's for those people who are in the halls of power, and it's for all of us because all of us have some sort of power. And God's word speaks truth to that power. Listen to Tiffany share an example from her life of speaking truth to power.
When Naima was 4 years old, she came up to me and spoke truth to power. She said, Mommy, you're beautiful. Mommy, you're important. This was during a struggling time at a job I had. It was during a moment when I wasn't seen or my voice wasn't as important. I was feeling defeated and speaking things that were not true about myself. I suck. I messed up again. It was my fault. I'm of no use. I was trying not to cry in front of my daughter, and she reminded me the bigger power in her life about what God thinks of me, what is true of me, that I am beautiful and important.
So here are a couple of questions about speaking truth to power. What truth do you need to speak to the powers around you? And what truth needs to be spoken to the power that you hold yourself? God's testimonies encourage and shape us in speaking truth to power. Psalm 119 continues to verse 47, and God speaks to us like a parent to a child, saying that we'll be sustained by following the delight of God's commands. For I find my delight in your commandments, which I love. Have you ever been sustained through hardships because of the delight you took in the work you were doing? Let's listen again to Tiffany sharing her experience of delight sustaining her through a hardship.
I've jumped over a lot of hurdles to start a dance business. I had to learn about entrepreneurship. I had to learn how to make my business official with documents and forms, like an EIN number, which I know means employment identification number, and registering with Laura, which I still don't know what that acronym stands for my business to be official in Michigan, and getting a permit for a sign for my building. I had to find funding. I had to deal with denials, 10 denial letters for grants before I got to the big one that I received a couple of months ago. I stayed up late doing one application after another. I was disappointed for various reasons. You're not the right fit. It's not the right time. I had to develop advertising to put out the word to others and my community, listing the reasons why you should come to our classes and the benefits. That meant that I had to see value in what I had to offer first. This was a hurdle, even seeing the value that I had within. I had to learn to implement what my customers wanted and desired, which meant I had to be humble to listen to whom I was serving. That's a balancing act of listening to stay in business while still maintaining the essence of my business. So why did I stick with all that? Because of the delight in dancing and teaching others to dance. The delight in seeing other people smile In every class, I see the delight in those who return to every class because it's their relief during the week. It's the one thing that some people look forward to, and it's exercise by accident without having to go to the gym. We build a sense of community, and my husband is so comical, and people are going to laugh. And who doesn't love music? All of our music is upbeat on purpose to make people feel happy. We intentionally have held classes on Monday because Monday can be a dreary day. This is my way of giving back to my community. It helps me to have purpose. It's an avenue to share something I personally like with others, and it keeps me in shape. It teaches my daughter about community, seeing us interacting with one another, other adults, being exposed to music, dancing, entrepreneurship. Because of COVID, they've come to business meetings with me. They come to class with me. They're my mini-me's. Naima's so excited about what I do. She oftentimes tells her teacher what I do. This is the delight that keeps me going. Like a parent speaks to a child, God speaks to me of the delights of his testimonies.
I love that. This is the delight that keeps me going. Like a parent speaks to a child, God speaks to me of the delight of God's testimonies. What do you delight in? How's that pointing you and others to God? God sustains us by delight. Now, finally, God also speaks to us by reminding us that we're sustained when we obey. Verse 48 says, I will lift up my hands toward your commandments, which I love, and I will meditate on your statutes. Have you ever thought of loving God's commands so much that it's not a chore to obey them? Have you ever imagined trusting God so much that you loved what he commanded, even if you didn't fully understand it? God's commandments are every principle, parable, and precept that God shares in the Bible that tells God's story. And when you look at the Bible closely, you'll see that God's commandments are a representation of God's love written down. I've seen this in my own life from time to time. Parents sharing with me the way to live. Financial advisors saying you should save more or spend less, and you'll be glad you did. Sometimes I want to fight those things because I don't fully understand. In my relationship with Lori, when she asks me to do something, I usually respond with, well, why? Why do you want it done like that? Sometimes Lori will say to me, a little sarcastically, you always have a better way. And I get it. I understand that. My curiosity trips me up. Well, I'm in process. I think I'm still learning. And along the way, I'm far from perfecting it. But there are times when I should just lovingly do it, right? I should just give into those things that I feel God is calling me to do. We've celebrated our 24th year of being married this past week, and I've learned that I can trust her because I know that she loves me, and she has my best interest at heart. And what I've found is that generally working with Lori rather than against her is much better for me and for our marriage. The same is so much more true for our relationship with God. As much as Lori loves me, God loves me more and more perfectly. And God, through God's word, speaks to us where we are like a parent to a child. And we're sustained by obedience. So we've established today that God speaks to us through his word. But the final question is this: are we listening? God speaks to us, but are we listening? And as we wrap up today, let's take a moment to listen to God through this final question. Chat about this for a moment. What do you need most of God's testimonies today? Speaking truth to power, sustaining by delight, or sustaining by obedience? will you pray with me? God, I pray that your testimonies, your word would sink down deep into our lives. I know that you want each of us, each person, to have exactly what they need. And so much of that is in your word. All we need to do is make your word, your testimonies, our heritage. So I pray that each person is seeing a bit of what they need right now and understanding a bit more of what you have for them today. So as we pray, and you've just thought about what you need from God today, would you just whisper to God, God, I receive your testimony about me. Thank you, God. Thank you. Amen. It's been great to be with you today. Consider the next steps that are in the program today, including reading Psalm 119 and letting it speak to you. Here's a blessing for you today. May you experience what God says is true this week. May God empower you to speak truth to power when you're given the opportunity. May God sustain you by delight. And may God sustain you through obedience. Have a great week. See you next week.